All right, let's talk about Josh Jacobs for a second. Josh Jacobs, a guy who I think is a really underrated player at this point, which is kind of weird to say because he is someone who's gotten a lot of attention over the course of his career. But he was an amazing player last year. He had over 1,600 yards. PFF had him as the highest graded running back last season. So what made him so good last year? Well, let's get into it. We'll start off with a play like this. So the way this play is going to work is it's actually someone who's off screen. That's going to be kind of a key impact player for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a defensive back who's going to be just off screen to the right, who's going to run in and eventually get in position to try and tackle Jacobs. Like, watch how right when this play begins, you see at this point, so Jacobs wants to run to the right side of the screen. So basically to the left of the left tackle, as in his left of the left tackle. That's where he's going to go, but obviously with the unblocked Kansas City player who's right there, which again, this is what you do. You can't block everybody. That's the guy they're leaving unblocked. Traditionally, you want to be able to, run the other side of the way. So run to the other side of the field. So if the unblocked player is to the right side of the screen, Jacobs would want to run to the left side of the screen, but he has the read on this play and sees that the way he can get the most yards would be further towards the right side of the screen. The issue is he has to now have the speed to get away from that player. But watch how he absolutely does, and he's able to even do some nice work in the open field and get a little bit more yards right there. So it's these little things like that Jacobs does consistently, where they design a play. Sometimes they design a play for him to try and beat a guy, but when he has to beat a guy, he can, and that's where the value of running backs come in, right? There's always that question. How valuable is it to have a good running back or a great running back in Jacobs' case? Well, these are the plays where you find value in it, stuff like that. Also, a play like this where he's going to eventually run to the, there's a fullback on this play. The fullback is going to go up to block Nick Bolton at the second level. He's going to run to the right of the fullback. That's where he's going to go. Watch how right when this play begins, hey, there's a window. This is well blocked by the Raiders, and that's definitely something that I think Jacobs does a really good job of. And again, there's a debate as to how important this is. How valuable is it to be able to be in a situation where, you have a running back who can just do what he's supposed to do, right? Catch the fly ball, for example. There's, a running lane up the middle. Maybe make the layup might be the better example, or hit the open three when no one's covering you. That kind of stuff is probably the better example to use a basketball analogy of kind of what Jacobs is going to do here. It's a pretty clear window where he has to run through. But as you see, he's able to run through it and pick up a little bit more yards than maybe you would have expected him to. That's a really good play by Josh Jacobs. And again, these are the kind of things he does consistently. He is the kind of guy where, for a running back, listen, you can't really create something out of nothing with a running back. Yes, every now and then you'll have a highlight reel type play, but that's just not really what happens with any consistency, just given, how dependent on your teammates the position is. But as a running back, you want to be someone who can do the simple stuff, who can get the yards that are there, and that's what he can do when he can even get some more yards that are there pretty consistently. A lot of people think about, can you turn a 2-yard run into a 10-yard run? Well, those are usually superstar highlight reel level plays that rarely happen. It's more about turning the 7-yard run into the 12-yard run that makes Jacobs special. And even stuff like this, too, of just reading the play well is a great example of what he can do, where he's initially going to take this handoff to the right of Derek Carr, and it appears as though that's where he initially is planning on running the ball. Like, watch, right when this play begins, I believe this is where he's designed to go. I don't think that this is an elaborate fake or anything like that. But if you notice, there's a gap to Jacobs' left that is certainly open right here. Now, I don't expect Jacobs to notice this. I wouldn't critique him if he didn't notice this. However, Jacobs does notice it. He shoots through that gap. The little bit of contact does not bring him down, and he even runs over a safety before finally getting brought down. I mean, these are the types of plays that really can change the dynamic of a game. I just said, turning a 2-yard run into a 12-yard run, that doesn't really happen in football. I didn't say it never happens, though, and it just happened right there. That's exactly what Jacobs did. So when you get the guy who can have a high batting average but also have home run hitting ability, that's what you like about Jacobs. But also, let's head over to something like this. So it's going to happen on this play where, once again, Jacobs is going to take the handoff to Derek Carr's right. It's very similar, actually, set up to the last play I showed, but this time it's going to be very different. Watch how when this play begins, you see that at this point, the lane up the middle looks to be pretty good. Again, how open will it actually be once it develops? You just can't say for sure, but there are two Kansas City players in the area who can come in and try and make a play, but you have, your left guard who's just finishing off a double team. He's going to go up and block one of those guys, and your fullback is also running in front. So let's just run up the middle and see what happens. And this is Jacobs' philosophy as a running back, is he just runs where he's supposed to run, which I know seems simple, but there's definitely, varying degrees of, thought processes when it comes to that stuff. Do you try to bounce stuff to the outside, hit the home run? Do you be a bit more patient and wait for something to develop? Or do you just go? Jacobs just goes. And as you see, he's going to just shoot straight up the middle, and he does pick up, again, that was a 12-yard run right there. And if he was a little bit more patient or hesitated a little bit more, he's still gaining some yards, but I don't know if he's gaining that many yards on that play. He's definitely not gaining as many as he did on that play. And so the fact that he has this kind of mindset of working quickly is definitely part of what makes him so effective for the for the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, this plays another example. I'll use the overhead shot this time to again show exactly what can work, but it's going to be a run to the offense's left, so towards the top of the screen, and really just watch what happens. Right when this play begins, again, you see it's well blocked, right? There's definitely a running lane for him to get through, but it's all about getting through it quickly. As you see, that's exactly what he does. He is able to run through it quickly, eventually gets brought down, but when the offensive line does their job, Jacobs takes advantage. And that's just what he does so consistently for Las Vegas, and that's his value as a running back. So again, how valuable are running backs in today's NFL? I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer, but there's no denying that when you have a guy like Jacobs, it adds value to your team, and it, certainly fun to watch, as running backs are one of the most fun to watch positions in sports. But it's just in general, it's it's definitely very the kind of thing that helps you to some degree. And I think someone like Jacobs, part of why he doesn't always get the attention that some other guys get is because he does have very much almost like a blue collar mindset with this stuff. Of he just goes in and does his job and runs where he's supposed to run and doesn't constantly try to make these moves and get more yards and get the home run hitting ability. He knows that if he just does his thing, eventually those home runs will come, and he's more concerned with doing the right play every single time than doing the wrong play half the time and making a great play the other half of the time, meaning less highlights but also more overall success than, according to PFF, than any other running back in football last year. And he certainly, I think that, the tape shows and the numbers show he is an incredible player and one of the best in football. And I mean, the guy had, you look at his just game in and game out, stats. The guy had 6 games where he had over 100 yards. He had, four of those games, he had over 140 yards. In one of those games, he had 229 yards. And I'm not even counting a game that he had 99 yards and a game that he had 93 yards. I mean, again, I know yards aren't everything, but still, the guy had 340 carries last year and still averaged 4.9 yards per carry. I mean, that kind of volume of carries and still having that efficiency is absurd. And the numbers back it up. The tape backs it up. Incredible player, Josh Jacobs. That's what I think about him. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.